Thomas Sowell, The Point of No Return. Now this is written by the great Thomas Sowell, one of my favorites. Um, if I had to make a Mount Rushmore, Thomas Sowell would definitely be on that Mount Rushmore. Even though woke ex basketball player Jalen Rose just talked about not using the term Mount Rushmore. I don't know. I don't know his rationale behind it because I didn't even want to go understand the idiocracy of why you can't use the term Mount Rushmore. Talk about Mount Rushmore, but Jalen Rose is a raging leftist, so I ignore that stuff. But if I had a Mount Rushmore, Thomas Sowell would definitely be on it. So let's before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It got a link to my Patreon where I talk about things I can't talk about here, and there's also a link to my merch store. All right, let's talk about this news. This is an election year, but the issues this year are not about Democrats and Republicans. The big issue is whether this nation has degenerated to a point of no return, a point where we risk destroying ourselves before our enemies can destroy us. If there is one moment that symbolized our degeneration, it was when an enraged mob gathered in front of the Supreme Court and a leader of the United States Senate shouted threats against Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, saying, quote, "You won't know what hit you." There have always been irresponsible demagogues, but there was once a time when anyone who shouted threats to the Supreme Court justice would see the end of his own political career and could not show his face in decent society again. You either believe in laws or you believe in mob rule. It doesn't matter whether you agree with the law or agree with the mob on some particular issue. If threats of violence against judges and publishing where a judge's children go to school is the way to settle issues, then there is not much point in having elections or laws. There's also not much point in expecting to have freedom. Threats and violence were the way of the Nazis came to power in Germany. Freedom is not free. If you can't be bothered to vote against stormtrooper tactics, regardless of who engages in them or over what issue, then you can forfeit your freedom. That's similar to what uh, um, Ben Franklin said. Worse yet, you could forfeit the freedom of generations not yet born. Some people seem to think that the Supreme Court has banned abortion. It has done nothing of the sort. The Supreme Court has, in fact, done something very different, something long overdue and potentially historic. It has said that their own court has no business making policy decisions which nothing in the Constitution gave them the authority to make. Get out a copy of the Constitution and see if you can find anything in there that says the federal government is authorized to make laws about abortion. Check out the 10th Amendment, which says that the federal government is limited to the specific powers it was granted, with all powers going to the states or to the people. Why do we elect legislators to do what the voters want done if unelected judges are going to make up laws on their own instead of applying the laws that elected officials pass? This is part of a very long struggle that has been going on for more than 100 years. Back in the early 20th century, progressives like President Woodrow Wilson decided that the Constitution put too many limits on the power they wanted to use. And I agree with that. Woodrow Wilson was one of our worst presidents ever. Claiming that it was nearly impossible to amend the Constitution, progressive advocated that judges interpret the Constitution limits out of the way. This was just the first in a long series of sophistries. In reality, the Constitution was amended 4 times in 8 years, from 1913 to 1920, during the heyday of the progressive era. When the people wanted the Constitution amended, it was amended. When the elites wanted the Constitution amended, but the people did not, that is called democracy. Another great sophistry was using the federal government's authority to regulate interstate commerce to call all sorts of other things interstate commerce. In 1995, elites were shocked when the Supreme Court ruled 5-4 that carrying a gun near a school was not interstate commerce. States had a right to ban carrying a gun near a school, and most of them did. But the federal government had no such authority, nor did the Constitution give the federal government the right to make laws about abortion the way, one way or the other. What both state and federal laws do have the right to stop is threats against judges and their families. This is not a partisan issue. The Republican governor of Virginia is providing protection to Supreme Court justices who live in that state. But the Republican governor of Maryland seems to think that harassing judges and their families is no big deal. Voters need to find out who is for or against mob rule. Whether they are Democrats or Republicans, we're not going to be a free or decent society otherwise. And I totally 100% agree with Mr. Thomas Sowell, the great thinker, the great economist. He's one of my favorite people. Again, like I said, I think if I had a Mount Rushmore, he definitely would be on it. He's right on point with that. It don't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. If you are against the Constitution, you do not need to be in government. And we do need to protect these judges, even the ones that I don't agree with. What he alluded to was what Schumer said. Schumer was the one that came out his mouth and said that stuff. Schumer did not need to be in government. I've been saying he was evil from the beginning. You can't trust this guy. And it's just crazy how these people, these elites, keep talking about and I love how he say this. He said that it's called democracy. When the elites want to amend the Constitution, it's called a democracy, and that's why you keep hearing this time and time again. Destroying democracy, they're destroying. We are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. We elect people to make these laws, and we don't directly vote on these laws. That's what a democracy is. Democracy is mob rule, and we don't have mob rule. We have a constitution that keeps our government in check. And I love this article by the great Thomas Sowell. But let me know what you think about all this. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out democrepublics.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace. Oh,